Saiko no Sutoka entails the tragic tale of at least 3 school students who become the victims of mental trauma and scrutiny. Saiko loses her mind and becomes a vicious, vindictive killer. Akira becomes a target and suffers from PTSD, being haunted by vivid nightmares. And Shinji simply loses his head. Hi folks, I'm R, your narrator. Consider following me on Twitter, where you can send me any suggestions for videos by DMing me or mentioning me. This video will have spoilers ahead. With that in mind, let's begin. Currently, there are 9 endings in Saiko no Sutoka, with the Nightmare mode presumably adding more endings in the future when it's complete. I already made a video going over the main plotline and most consistent ending leading up to the events of Nightmare mode, which you can watch by hitting the card above. Just when I was writing the script for this video, I noticed something going over my last one. The developer of the game, Habu Pain, left a comment saying "nice video!" exclamation mark. Well, Habu Pain, I gotta say nice game. Even more, fantastic story. Thank you so much for creating such an awesome game. I'm really looking forward to the Nightmare mode when it's finally complete. Going in somewhat chronological order, Shinji, the snobby friend of Akira, the protagonist of the game whom Saiko is overly obsessed about, visits an empty school during day, presumably looking for Akira. Instead of finding Akira, he encounters the psychotic ex-girlfriend of his, whom he was a factor of being broken up with. Saiko seems to have fully moved on, seemingly assisting Shinji in finding Akira. After walking around for a while, taking the strange instructions of Saiko, Shinji witnesses an unconscious Akira stuffed in a locker. That's when he gets instructed by a strange behaving Saiko to find first aid from the infirmary room. Shinji, noticing the situation is bizarre, tries the exit door, realizing it's locked. Knowing that he's been lured into the school, he concludes that his life is in danger. That is only confirmed when he tries to take the exit door key from Saiko. She becomes hostile and throws gas bombs at him. After a bit of struggle, Shinji manages to steal the key from Saiko and leave the school. Just as he recollects himself and laughs proudly in relief, something heavy drops on his head, causing severe brain damage, killing him instantly. Saiko is then seen from a higher floor, who seemingly dropped a flower pot on his head. Going back to the moment Shinji was offered the key to the infirmary to fetch some first aid, if he acts foolish and trusts Saiko, he gets locked in the infirmary room, which is engulfed in gas, leading to him losing his consciousness. After some time, he slowly regains his consciousness, finding himself tied to a bed. He then witnesses a psychotic Saiko wielding a kitchen knife and waving it in the air, wearing a menacing grin with her eyes glowing red. Shinji, realizing what is about to happen, shouts in fear, commanding Saiko to stop, while in panic, trying to break loose from his restraints. All is in vain as Saiko slowly approaches Shinji, sitting on him and proceeding to saw his head off with the kitchen knife. This ending is the most consistent with the plotline, as in the introduction of the main story, with Akira being the protagonist. Saiko informs him that Shinji just woke up, whom she goes to soon after to murder brutally as shown in this ending. The head and body of Shinji can also be found stuffed in cupboards and lockers at the school, acting as more of a shock to an already petrified Akira when he tries to escape a knife-wielding Saiko. After Akira is caught by Saiko in a yangire state twice trying to escape, she remains in her yangire state and drags him to the headmaster room where he was initially tied in. He's yet again tied to a chair, with Saiko in a disappointing tone complaining that she told him to stay in the room, when with a quick and swift slashing move, she cuts Akira's head clean off, then subsequently in a menacing way staring at his head. In the school, after being chased by an unaware Saiko who doesn't understand the gravity of her actions, Akira gets the courage and faces Saiko in her normal yandere state, withholding the key from him. She playfully teases Akira if he wants the key and moving it around, when Akira has enough and holds Saiko's arm very hard and snatches the key off her hand. This causes Saiko to switch to her other more menacing persona, the yangire state, who starts strangling Akira. As she's about to finish him off, she has a sudden realization to what a monster she has become, killing the boy she loves so much, the only boy who showed her affection and kindness. This moment of realization stops her at her feet, switching back to her normal state, dropping down to her knees, being completely broken, apologizing to a terrified Akira. Akira, observing a broken Saiko, sympathizing with her, decides that it's best to use this moment and leave while he can. As he opens the door and gets across it, Saiko stands to her feet with the knife slowly dropping out of her hand, while wearing a sad, teary-eyed face. Akira yet again stands staring at her, feeling sorry for her. But understanding the situation wouldn't end well for him, he runs with the last bit of energy he has left. Saiko, in a futile gesture, raises her arm pleading with Akira to stay, ending up alone in the crime scene she had created. In this ending, while being chased by the yangire Saiko, wielding her bloodied knife, Akira narrowly manages to get to the door and open it. He quickly shuts the door and locks it, locking Saiko in. A relentless Saiko, not giving up so easily, stabs the glass on the door so hard that it breaks. She proceeds to use her hand to clear some shards and squeeze through the gap she created, when suddenly she trips, accidentally impaling herself on some remaining large broken shards. She starts bleeding severely, losing more and more blood as seconds pass. She raises her arm begging Akira for help, which leaves Akira frozen momentarily. Horrified to the scene of a dying Saiko, he acts on his instincts and runs out of the premises. A bleeding Saiko dies soon after due to the severe blood loss, being impaled on the broken glass shards left on the door, while having some other broken pieces of glass lodged in her body. This is the most consistent ending as well, which leads to the story of Nightmare Mode, with an undead Saiko having broken shards of glass in her body, hunting a mentally traumatized Akira. Akira suffers from severe PTSD due to the immense trauma he suffered from narrowly escaping a murderous Saiko, and discovering his friend Shinji brutally mutilated and killed. He also can't get the image of Saiko bleeding to death out of his head and begging Akira for help, with the last breaths she had left. Akira cannot come to terms with how he survived and believes he must have died that night alongside Shinji. He perceives Saiko as an invincible monster who possesses superhuman abilities and strength while having two physical bodies, with her doppelganger being called Elisu, a monstrous and vicious entity who enjoys the sight of blood and murder. This is due to his trauma and how his fear and nightmares are represented in such over-exaggerated manner, portraying the memory of Saiko. Yangire mode is a bonus which does include some canon elements explaining the damaged condition of Akira's mental health, which is something many trauma survivors might experience and suffer from after their horrible experience. In all of the endings, Akira dies or is implied to die, which portrays how in his head he never accepted that he truly escaped being hunted by an undead Saiko. The monstrous and yangire Saiko sarcastically mentions that she knew that Akira always wanted to escape, mentioning that she will make his wish come true, when she cuts his head off with a machete and throws it out of the window. In this ending, facing both yangire Saiko and her evil doppelganger Elisu, they mock how ridiculous the idea of Akira ever escaping truly is, and that he could never escape. Elisu and Saiko proceed to cut Akira in half, dancing with his lower half and upper half respectively. This portrays how in his head, Akira never came to terms of truly escaping, still being haunted by the memory of Saiko, visually seeing two separate entities representing the two immensely different personalities she had. Just to clarify, having different personalities and suffering from dissociative identity disorder does not mean that they are menacing or dangerous. It's only in severe or rare cases that they can be. And here, after barely escaping Elisu, the murderous doppelganger of Saiko, Akira rushes out when a superhuman Elisu breaks out of the door with ease and charges in air at Akira, pinning him down. Elisu, clearly enjoying the show, lets Akira go, who runs to the exit gate with a normal-looking Saiko waiting for him. Akira, feeling guilty for breaking up with Saiko and scrutinizing her for her dissociative identity disorder, embraces her warmly and apologizes to her. Saiko embraces him back, revealing her evil face when Akira is unaware. This represents how Akira perceived Saiko, a skinny girl who possibly didn't in reality have much strength and couldn't overcome a taller or stronger boy. Due to the fear Akira sustained, his body went through a state of shock, with his fight or flight system kicking in, rendering him weaker and making Saiko much stronger than him. This only magnified to a colossal scale, making Saiko become superhuman in Akira's head. At the end, despite Saiko appearing normal and friendly, she shows her true self, displaying that in Akira's head, he craves to face Saiko again in her normal state, so he can truly overcome his crippling fear. Something that would never be possible again. It also shows how despite Saiko being psychotic inside and possessing detrimental and toxic traits, Akira would still be with her due to the mental trauma he went through, willing to be with a toxic and abusive Saiko just not to face her murderous state again. This unfortunately could correlate with many toxic relationships where the victims suffer in silence, being mentally manipulated and scared, living for the small and short happy moments, not to face the horrible ones. And finally, the last ending is when Elisu willingly gives the key to the exit door to Akira, who rushes out quickly. He observes Saiko's doll, which she loved so much and treated like her best friend since her childhood, sitting in front of him when suddenly he collapses to the ground, feeling something dropped on his head. When a superhuman Saiko or Elisu jumping down, mentioning that there's not going to be a happy ending for Akira ever, and that he's stuck in a loop forever. This skips to sometime later, with Akira's head and hands cut off and placed on Saiko's stuffed doll. They are sitting on a table with Elisu and Saiko, having a tea party. This is one of the saddest and creepiest endings, where Saiko's mental state is uncovered. Saiko had a stuffed doll having only one eye, portraying how it's old and tattered, as if she had it for a long time. Saiko's character being lonely and scrutinized for her whole life, not having any friends, shows how her only friend was her doll, whom she kept till now, despite missing an eye. Even in her diaries, she has drawn a sketch of her doll, showing how much she loved it. In this twisted turn of events, she replaces the head and hands of her doll, a trusted best friend, with her love interest, Akira. This ending portrays how she only trusted her inanimate stuffed doll, whom she grew up with. She combined it with the person she loved so much, Akira, someone she didn't trust much, as he broke up with her and tried to escape. Therefore, in her tormented mind, she combined two of the best things, her doll's trust and her senpai's love, and created one entity. To her, even a lifeless Akira would suffice, as she spent majority of her life interacting with an inanimate toy. It's something she would be happy with. The best of two worlds, her two favorite things in one. I'm looking forward to the nightmare mode, and by the looks of it, it seems as if it will contain a lot of the tragic aspects of the story and the fate of Akira. If you enjoyed this video, why don't you stay tuned by hitting the subscribe button and the notification bell. It's been your host Dar, and as always, have a fantastic day.